Good morning. My name is Andrew Hogel. I am a hearing officer for the Colorado Department of Transportation, which we'll refer to as the department or as CDOT. Today is April 7th, 2023. It is now 10:32 a.m., and this is a permanent rulemaking hearing pursuant to the Administrative Procedure Act, found at Section 244103 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, to hear oral testimony and accept written submissions concerning the State Highway Access Category Assignment Schedule. During this rulemaking hearing, we refer to these administrative rules as the rules. This hearing is being conducted virtually through Zoom. The hearing is being recorded, and the recording will be retained at CDOT. I'm presiding at this permanent rulemaking hearing based upon a delegation of authority from the Transportation Commission of Colorado, which we will refer to as the Transportation Commission. Section 432147 of the Colorado Revised Statutes and the State Highway Access Code 2 CCR 6011 authorize the Transportation Commission to promulgate and amend the rules. Here with us today are Sari Weichbrot, Dan Rusin, and Tim Billebrand from the department, and Pavan Nelson from the Attorney General's office. I'm now going to walk through our hearing agenda so you know what to expect. First, our staff will establish that CDOT has met all the procedural requirements required by the Administrative Procedure Act. Then staff will give a presentation on the proposed rule revisions. After that, participants will have the opportunity to give verbal comments. Comments will be time limited to ensure that everyone who wishes to speak concerning the proposed rules may do so. And finally, I'll make a finding as to whether the rulemaking proceeding, including this hearing, was conducted in compliance with the Administrative Procedure Act. I will prepare a complete record of the hearing and forward that record and the proposed rules to the Transportation Commission for their final consideration and approval. This record will be kept on file with the department's permanent rulemaking records. Okay, let's begin with a brief presentation on the rulemaking process from CDOT staff.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Hogel. I'm Sari Weichbrot, the Rules Advisor at CDOT. The Administrative Procedure Act has requirements to ensure that the public is properly notified of proposed rules and has an opportunity to provide input on those rules. I will briefly summarize the steps we took to meet these requirements. All documentation has been provided to the hearing officer, is posted on our proposed rules webpage, and will be retained in a permanent rulemaking file at CDOT. On February 16, 2023, the Transportation Commission adopted a resolution allowing CDOT to proceed with this rulemaking and delegating the authority to hold this hearing to a hearing officer. On February 28th, CDOT filed the proposed permanent rules, including the hearing date, time, and registration link of today's hearing on the Secretary of State's website. CDOT also filed the proposed permanent rules and hearing information with DORA, the Department of Regulatory Agencies. This triggered an email to members of the public who have signed up on the DORA website to be notified of any CDOT or transportation-related rulemaking. CDOT then sent emails with the proposed rules and notice of the hearing to two groups, our stakeholder group and our interested party group, which consists of anyone who has notified CDOT directly that they want to be notified of all CDOT rulemaking. Our public notice of the rule was published in the Colorado Register on March 10th, 2023. As today is April 7th, we have met the requirement to hold our hearing no earlier than 20 days after notice was published. In addition, the proposed rules and hearing information have been continuously published on the CDOT rules website since February 28th. The rule language was updated on the website on March 31st with additional changes. It included some minor edits in response to public comment and an additional category change request from Region 3. Additional notice was emailed to stakeholders yesterday with one last proposed addition to the rule, which was highlighted in yellow and described. The late addition is to add a segment of state-owned highway that was inadvertently admitted previously. But we sent out the notice to make sure everybody knew about it. We accepted written comments until March 31st. We received one written comment. The comment and CDOT's response thereto have been included in the record and will be provided to the Transportation Commission for full consideration along with all exhibits. In light of yesterday's late rule addition, CDOT would like to accept written comments through Monday morning at 9 a.m. to ensure the public has an opportunity to evaluate that last recent change. I will maintain the entire public permanent rulemaking record at CDOT. I would offer all hearing exhibits into the record for your consideration, Mr. Hearing Officer. I would ask for permission to correct any scrivener's errors in the rule documents should that be necessary prior to presenting them to the Transportation Commission for adoption. I would also ask that you find that all statutory requirements of the Administrative Procedure Act have been met at the end of this public hearing.
Thank you. The exhibits have been entered into the record. Staff will now explain the substance of the proposed rules.
Okay, I am going to try and share my screen. Okay, so a little background on this rule. The State Highway Access Category Assignment Schedule, which is a really long name, so I'm just going to call it the rule, was last updated in 2013, and it requires changes just to reflect the current state-owned highway segments, so a reflection of what exists today. The rule provides 8 categories or classifications for highway segments. So CDOT received 2 requests for category changes from Region 3 and 3 requests for category changes from Region 4. The record and the hearing exhibits provide the letters of support we received from local governments. All are supportive of these changes or requested the changes. Section 3 adds language allowing the Transportation Commission to entertain petitions for declaratory orders. This is standard language that we've been adding to every rule that we've updated within the last, let's say, 5 years, and we will continue to add to our rules as we update them. Much of the red in the rule reflects the removal of outdated information or correcting typos, but I'm going to walk through the more specific changes. As I said, there was one late change. There was an inadvertent omission of the addition of highway segment 002D. So we're going to extend that comment period, as I stated, through Monday at 9 a.m. We'll accept written comments, and we, of course, will accept testimony here today. And that will all be added to the record. So these are the proposed deletions. CDOT doesn't own these highway segments any longer, so it's not really appropriate for them to stay in the rule. These are the additions. So these are highway segments that were not in the rule before, but we own them now. The new change, which is 002D, is listed at the top. Then we have category or mile point boundary changes. So you can see the list here. 5 of the changes reflect category changes, and then we have others that include mile points. I will point out that in 014C, we have letters of support requesting a category change to NRB. The actual red line of the rule reflects an adjustment of the mile point. So it doesn't have a red line for a category change. The category change is within the mile point. So I just wanted to make really clear that that's what we had. There were also some incorrectly described roads. I don't know if the names of the roads have changed or if anything changed on that end, but we're just updating things to be more accurate. So we have heard from Palisade, from Wiggins, from Sterling, from Orchard City, and from Yuma County on these changes, and that's all included in the exhibits. In terms of what we're going to do next, as I said, we're going to reopen that written comment period, which I did through my email yesterday. Happy to receive any comments to the .rules email address. If we don't receive new comments that would lead to further changes or cause us to reconsider any changes, we would plan to submit the proposed rules as presented to the Transportation Commission at their April meeting for their consideration and adoption. If we were to receive comments that we think require further consideration, we will probably delay asking the Transportation Commission to adopt the rules in April. We do not have to rush to bring them the rule, and we will not if we feel like that's inappropriate. Dan, do you have anything to add as the subject matter expert? Dan's camera isn't working, by the way, everybody. He's on a loaner computer, so that's why his camera is not
on. Thank you, Sari. No, I don't have any updates or anything. You explained the situation very well, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. And when we reach the testimony portion, if anybody has questions about the specifics of the changes, Dan will be our subject matter expert to answer those. I'm not going to pretend that I can answer them. Mr. Hearing Officer, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Okay, well, at this time, we will start with the testimony phase of the rulemaking hearing. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Please limit your comments to these proposed rules. Please state your full name and identify the name of any organization that you're representing. This hearing is to receive public testimony. The focus is on you, the public. However, CDOT staff may ask to clarify something that was either misunderstood in the rules or to ask a question to be certain they understand your public comment. So we will start with those who indicated they wish to provide comments when they registered, and then we'll see if anyone else wishes to comment using the Zoom raised hand feature. So I'll ask staff to, at this time, unmute Mr. Tom Aker. Mr. Aker, do you still wish to speak? If so, please go ahead right now.
Great. Thank you, sir. My name's Tom Aker. I'm the town manager for the town of Wiggins, and I just wanted to urge support for the change requested by the town. And I'm here to answer any questions or if I need to provide any more additional information. The reason for our request is a section of Highway 6 or Central Avenue in Wiggins is already NRB, and this brings the entire stretch of Highway 6 between Road 52 and 39 to the western edge of the town of Wiggins into the same classification. We feel this is necessary because the lands are currently vacant but have got plans to develop, and the additional ability to have accesses off of Highway 6 will be necessary. So that's a reason for our request. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Okay, staff, if you would now please unmute Miss Elizabeth Relford. Ms. Relford, if you wish to speak, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm Elizabeth Relford, Deputy Director, Weld County Public Works. I received notification yesterday of the hearing, and while I haven't had a chance to go in a lot of detail over the proposed changes, mostly what my comments are today are, I guess I would say, maybe not as specific rather than just overall. Since you guys are updating the rule, you had mentioned that you're looking at some just updating of road names and things like that. You know, throughout this document, all the federal highways, US 34, US 85, US 36 are referenced as state highways. They're federal highways. It would be great if we could update all of that nomenclature to reflect what is currently identified as accurate, I guess, since we're going through and redlining and making those changes anyway. I would request that we update all of those old, because I think probably they go way back, but they've never been updated. So we're still referring to State Highway 85, State Highway US, or State Highway 34 when we know that they're US. So I would just request that we update that nomenclature to reflect what we currently have. And then the only other area that jumped out at me is, we're really looking at the US 85 corridor, needing to update the access control plan along that corridor. Some of the communities are identified as NRB, and then we have other ones that are still Expressway EX. So through the towns of Gilcrest and Platteville, for consistency, like what we've done on our other corridors, it would be nice to reference those as NRB rather than EX. Just through the towns of Pearson and Gilcrest for consistency, like we did for Alt and Nunn and those other communities along that same corridor for the ease of as we're seeing growth and development occur along US 85. So those, like I said, I don't have specific mile markers because they haven't been identified with the difference of the classification. So I just have to get with Tim and work with him on that. But that would be a recommendation that I would have with this update. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. All right. Does anyone else now wish to comment? If so, please raise your hand using the raised hand feature or wave if your camera's on. Okay, seeing no one else raising a hand at this time, unless I've missed anyone. Okay, that concludes the testimony portion of this hearing. Typically, comments would also be closed, but as we said, CDOT has requested to leave written comments open through Monday when they close at 9 a.m. I will ask staff to include today's registration list for this hearing and the recording of the hearing in the record that's provided to the Transportation Commission. Okay, well, I now make my findings that the Transportation Commission properly delegated authority to a hearing officer to conduct this hearing, that the department has met the requirements of the Administrative Procedure Act, and that this rulemaking hearing has been conducted in conformance with the Act. I will take all written comments and oral testimony found in the record regarding the proposed rule revisions under advisement when making my recommendation to the entire Transportation Commission on whether to adopt the proposed rule revisions or to further amend them based on the record. And per staff's request, I will delay making that recommendation until the expiration of the additional comment period, Monday morning, 9 o'clock. I will grant CDOT's request to correct any Scrivener's errors prior to submitting the rules to the Transportation Commission. And finally, I find that the public did have an opportunity to comment through oral testimony and written comments at this hearing, and that they will have an additional 3 days for written comment. This hearing is now adjourned. Thank you for your participation in the public rulemaking process.